This is a Yin Yoga class focused on the legs and the hips. Our first pose we're going to come into is Caterpillar. It's a seated forward fold. You sit with your legs together or slightly apart and just gently fold over your legs. You can round into this pose. If you need a little bit extra stretch, you can take a block underneath your feet, reaching for the block, or even reaching your hands around your legs, reaching for each wrist, pulling your elbows away from one another. For each of these poses, you want to hold them anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes. And Jenny's going to move through these quicker, but if you want to hit pause and hold the pose, even setting a timer, the idea is that you hold it for that extended period of time so that your big muscles can get out of the way, you can get into the connective tissue of your body. Next pose, coming straight from Caterpillar into Butterfly, pulling the soles of your feet together, knees apart. And you're going to fold over these legs as well. Now there's lots of options here. You can keep your heels really close to your body. If you keep your heels really close and then lean forward, you're going to feel this more in your hip flexors. If you want to press your feet a little bit further, you're going to get more into your hamstrings. Possibly even taking your hands underneath your ankles or wrapping your arms around behind you. This pose is for that opening of your hip flexors, also into your hamstrings. And any of these forward folds, you're going to feel that release in your back. And if it's uncomfortable for you to let your head hang heavy here, you can just make your neck an extension of your spine. Kind of bring it to a neutral position, even propping it up on blocks if that's a better fit, better option. You want to try to sustain that hold for 3 to 5 minutes, resisting the urge to come out of it when you get tired or bored or antsy, and maybe bringing it further, surrendering further into the pose as the time goes on. Next pose is a half straddle. So you have one leg straight. Your opposite foot can be at your inner thigh, and you can fold straight forward. If you'd rather feel a little more in your hamstrings, you can turn your body towards your straight leg. And if you want to take full straddle, you can take both legs out to the side. Again, folding straight forward. Not worrying about if your spine stays long, just rounding into this pose. Doesn't matter if your legs rotate forward. For all of those former dancers, you have to keep your knees to the ceiling, your feet to the ceiling. In this, it doesn't matter. If you want to roll it forward, just kind of enjoy that release. Definitely into your hip flexors, also into your hamstrings. Any of these poses, you want to just find a breath that works for you, but focus on breathing. Deep inhales in through your nose. And exhale through your nose or through your mouth. And she's just going to switch sides and do the other leg for half straddle. Trying to do the same thing on both sides, even though we don't feel symmetrical. Doesn't feel the same on both sides, unless you have an injury that prevents you from doing that. Try to take the same stretch in the same way on the right and on the left. From here, just moving into Pigeon. And you can just rotate directly into Pigeon just like Jenny did, squaring off. If you want to come first to Down Dog and really press through both heels and then bringing that right leg forward, In Pigeon, you've got your right leg bent and your left leg is straight. If that's too much with your left leg straight, you can soften your back knee, make a Z shape with your legs, and take a deer pose instead. And actually in Yin, Pigeon is called Swan, sleeping swan, when you come forward. And some people say you want to try to make that front shin parallel to the mat. For me, that bothers my knee, so my heel stays pretty close to my hip. You can enhance this pose by taking your torso, just like Jenny did, to the front left diagonal, almost like you're smashing your foot, kind of laying on your foot, reaching those arms out long. Just kind of surrendering into that pose so that you get the benefit, the stretch through that entire right hip socket as well as your left hip flexor. Just going to release from that side and switch sides if you want to press yourself back to down dog first, or just kind of rotate around, switching and coming into that left side pigeon, also known as sleeping swan. Modifying that however you need. Bringing yourself out of that side. Going to come into shoelace pose. So shoelace is where you stack your knees. So she has her right leg crossed over her left and her knees are stacked. Now if that's too much, you can extend your bottom leg straight and take half shoelace. But the idea is to line up those knees. Sometimes it feels good to hold onto your feet and gently lean forward. Sometimes it feels good to do what Jenny has done and just bring those arms forward and surrender into that, release into that shoelace pose. Again, with your head hanging heavy, if that's too much pressure on your neck, just make your head an extension of your spine. Just folding into that, and it's a pretty intense pose. If you have both legs bent, you're going to feel that through both hips, but primarily that top leg. And if you have just one leg bent, your bottom leg is straight, you're still going to get that good stretch in that right hip. We want to keep our hips mobile and keep our hips flexible so that we stay that way as we age. She's just going to untwist and switch sides, stacking that left leg over the right. And just bringing yourself out of that pose. Always feels good to do some kind of counter pose. Windshield wipers, knees planted, or I'm sorry, feet planted, knees to the ceiling and side to side with your knees. is a great counter pose for almost all of our yin stretches and our yin poses. Jenny's transitioning from here into happy baby. So lying on your back, grabbing the inside or outside of your feet. Now in most of the poses we say, come to a place where you can find some stillness and stay there. If you want to move in happy baby, rocking side to side or straightening out one leg then the other. Sometimes it feels really good to keep that moving, keep that mobile, or you can just pull those knees down. And if you cannot grab your feet, if that's not accessible, you can hook your arms underneath your knees. So kind of hook those arms and you can pull your knees down on the outside of your rib cage as well. That's another option. As you're in happy baby, you want to keep your lower back and your hips pressing down. So trying not to let your booty come up in the air, kind of pressing down. You're going to come from here to a spinal twist. So there's lots of ways you can twist. You can take just one knee across your body, drop it over and look away from it. You can take both knees to your chest, drop them over to one side, or you can cross one leg over the other. If your right leg's crossed on top, you would drop your knees to the left. But a spinal twist should feel good. It should be good release on your back and on your upper body. So if that doesn't feel good, adjust the way your legs are. The closer your knees are to your chest, you're going to feel that in a different place in your back. So you want to find a twist that feels comfortable for you. Bringing everything back to center. Just going to twist to the other side. Keeping your body even, doing the same thing on the left and the right for the same amount of time. And bringing everything back to center. Just transitioning from here to Shavasana, giving yourself this peaceful, still, quiet time to relax. No longer worried about focusing on your breath, but just be. Find some stillness. Shavasana.